Welcome to the Women Living Well After 50 podcast. I'm Sulon Carrick and I'm passionate about inspiring, motivating, supporting and informing women over 50 to embrace this exciting time of life. Health and wellness in mind, body and spirit are the foundations for living well, but there is so much more to a life well lived. Each week, through conversations with my guests, I'll be presenting topics that will help us all to live well and enjoy life. So join me as we discover new ways to become women living well after 50. Are you ready to start living? What are you waiting for? Let's get started. Welcome to another episode of the Women Living Well After 50 podcast. I'm Sulon Carrick and it's lovely to have you join me. My guest today is Vivianne Knebel, an illegitimate child born in the wake of World War II Berlin, living and seeing the atrocities of the war, moving to Canada, facing more challenges in life, but overcoming them all. She's written 2 books. She has just completed a documentary on her life and is a very inspiring woman. Vivianne says, "What can I do here?" She doesn't ask for people to do things for her. She does them. She loves giving. She loves always finding the beauty in everything, a lesson that she learned from her mother. So let's go and join the conversation, and I hope that you will be inspired by this beautiful woman, Vivianne Knebel. Welcome, Vivianne. It is lovely to have you join me for an interview on the Women Living Well After 50 podcast.
Thank you so much, Sue, for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Now, I'm excited to have you as a guest because you have a very interesting and in some ways tragic story that you would like to share with us. And I know that we all have our own life story, but yours in particular has not always been easy, but you are certainly a resilient woman. And so I'm delighted to have you today to share your story with us.
Thank you, Sue. You know, it is about the harsh realities, the terrible harsh realities of human life. But it's also about the beauty that always awaits all of us. And I had many strikes against me from the get-go. I was born at the height of Hitler's Nazi Germany in Berlin in the epicenter. And I was an illegitimate child, and therefore I had no country. I did not belong to a country because the German law was such that you get the nationality of the father. So there I was already, that was already a big taboo. And it was very hard. My mom, I tell this story actually through my mother, who as a single mom, had to keep her 2 illegitimate children, which she loved dearly. She was the greatest mom, fiercely devoted to us, to keep them alive and from bomb attacks, and also to get enough food. She worked in the black market to get some food on the table for us. So it was a really, really rough beginning. Hunger and cold were a constant at that time. And so she worked in the black market, striking deals to keep us afloat. And she was so devoted to us, even though our life was chaotic, but she was the most beautiful mother as far as giving us, instilling the right values in us. And so we went through that aftermath in Berlin, where all the German people struggled. This is actually a story that has not been told too often, how the German people actually suffered, how they had to deal with the conflict of the war, and they suffered and had to struggle to keep their families alive and safe. And so it actually offers a window into the real life of real people. That is what I had a tough childhood. When I started school, I had not gone to kindergarten before, and I had trouble following the concepts of the teacher, and I was condemned dumb to my mother. So I had another strike. You know, first you feel inferior because you belong to no country. You're illegitimate and you don't do well in school. So it was one blow after another. But eventually, I overcame this at the age of 13. My mother married an old schoolmate she met up with later on, who had just returned from Siberia. And he was almost, you know, at the brink of starvation all the time. 5 years he was incarcerated, and it changes people. It makes them hard. You know, it makes them hard. It changes people, and we saw that in him. And so my mother, they decided to immigrate to Canada. So we, at the age of 13, we immigrated to Canada. And, you know, once I got on the boat, I still cried when the boat made its way into the water, because I left everything behind that was familiar to me. But I also, even though I had a tough time in Germany, my childhood was very hard, and I was not accepted as a citizen, I manifested my life. I said to myself, I looked back at my homeland, and I said to myself, you know, one day I will return and I will be successful. I will show you. I will return and I'll wear the most beautiful suit. You will not even recognize me. I was 13 years at that age, but you see, I already manifested. I had intention for my life.
Yes, and that's something just to interrupt your story at that point,
that's good.
Going over to Canada, it must have been difficult. It's difficult for everyone during war on both sides of the divide.
Absolutely.
And there's a lot of political fallout of people, isn't there? And it's the normal people that are suffering. But what I'm getting from you is the strength of your mum, your mother, who, despite everything, was still able to look after you and your sibling and provide some sort of life for you, some sort of hope, I suppose, and build that resilience in you.
Yes, and that's why I say my mother was incredible. She was a free spirit, a nonconformist, and a rebel, but she had a heart of gold. She instilled so much love in us and always told us, have a dream. She always told us, have a dream, and never let go of your dream, and pointed out beauty, even though there wasn't much beauty at that time. The world was pretty colorless, you know, devoid of any color, really. But my mother still, we talked a lot, we huddled together, the three of us. She was the heart of our unit of three, but she was an incredible mother. And then we immigrated to also, you know, during that time when I was little, Berlin was surrounded. It was divided. I watched that city being divided into four sectors: the French sector, the English sector, the American sector, and then the East, the Soviet sector.
Yes.
And we were fortunate enough my mother was assigned an apartment by the government, and it was in the West sector. Thank heavens for that. But they had there was a blockade. The Russians would not let anything go through to the West. So the Americans launched a year-long airlift and dropped food on our city. You know, so I have much to be grateful for this beautiful country here, which I became finally a citizen of. And so that was quite difficult. But once we immigrated, I was 13 at that time. The first winter in Canada, we went hungry again because my stepfather could not find work. He was a custom tailor, and he was not in command of the language. The first winter, very hard. He could not, and he was a hard worker, always wanted to work, but I could not find work, and we went hungry again. So my mother, being so resourceful, she took me by the hand and we walked into a church, and I, with my broken English, my mother could not speak English, explained our plight to the priest, and he sympathetically handed us $35 to survive. So we got some, the minute we got out, we got flour and rice, the staples, so it would last us. And at the age of 14, I asked my mother, I'd like to help the family. I'd like to start working. And she had to obtain a special permit because of the child labor law. And I actually landed a job at an office of a dentist who was going to teach me to become a dental assistant. I was always eager to learn and grow and make something of myself. But unfortunately, one day, one of his friends walked in, who I've seen before, who came by before, but the doctor was not in. I was alone, and he sexually abused me. And I was only 14, and that was traumatic. And I had, really problems explaining that to my boss. I was ashamed, embarrassed to explain to him what happened. And but I did muster up the courage, because I was afraid he might come back and do it again. So I told him, and he, of course, he was on my side. He became irate. And he said, that man will never come in here again. I told my mother, and my mother said, you must leave. So I left that job, and then I started working at a 5 and 10 cent store, Woolworth. I don't know if you're familiar.
Yes,
Woolworth.
yes.
Behind the lunch counter, making sandwiches with care and heart, but I realized, in order to improve my station in life, I need to learn. So I went to night school and learned stenography and typing. So eventually, I would be able to land an office job. And so eventually, I applied at Volkswagen Sales and Service, a German company, the iconic car dealership. And they immediately gave me the job up in the accounting department. It went very fast. It was not problematic, to apply for a job. Everything was much simpler those days. And but I became working there was tough, because the people I worked with were women over twice my age. There was no camaraderie, no connection. And I spiraled into deep depression. And I thought, if this is going to be my life, at 17, at the age of 17, I spiraled into deep depression. I had bought a used car at that time, and I heard somewhere that when you close the garage door and start the motor, that the carbon monoxide would render you unconscious and you drift off to your end. And that's what I did. I closed the garage door. I never said this to my mother or sister. I always hid my depression. I was ashamed. I did not want to be a failure, and so I couldn't share it with anyone. That was tough. And this is why I wrote this book also. I want to help young people if they feel suppressed or defeated, to never give up hope, and to always remember life is not static. It changes even if you don't want it to, but I didn't know that at the time. So while the motor was running, the door was closed, a little girl suddenly appeared in front of me. She must have been around 6 years old. And she asked me what I was doing. And I immediately turned off the motor, opened the garage door, and I immediately said, I'm going to wash my car. And I thought, where did this little girl come from? She must have come in a side door. It was a one or two, I think it was a one-car garage that I'd rented at a duplex. And so she skipped off, blissfully unaware she should save my life. But later on, I thought a lot about that moment. That was the lowest point in my life. But I picked myself up after that and held on to a glimmer of hope, and went back to my job. And eventually there was an opening as a secretary for the service manager downstairs. And since I knew typing and stenography, I immediately got the job. So I already felt better. And then at the age of 20, a man walked in, winked at me, and bought a Porsche and became my husband.
Oh.
That's how that happened. Yeah.
Yes.
And ever since then, my life turned around because he believed in me. He saw potential in me, believed in me, and always encouraged me to grow and learn. We married maybe half a year or 3/4 of a year after that. and he just did so much for me. You know, I learned to pilot a plane. I helped him in his business. I ran a marathon. From the weakest link, I became stronger and stronger. And then later in my life, I always was so grateful to my husband. I always told him, and I believe we need to tell those that helped us in any number of ways, to thank them, to let them know how much that meant. And I always told my husband, but I thought that's not enough. And so I decided I'm going to write a book. And I wrote that book, which is my life story, from rubble to champagne, because I literally came out of the rubble, you know, the limb. And champagne is now, because I have the most beautiful life, and I have the most beautiful life you can imagine. And so I wanted to thank him, and I wrote this book as a token of appreciation for his 80th birthday.
Oh, what a lovely gift.
So that's how my first book came about. And then the pandemic hit 2 years later, and I wrote my second book, because all these years when my life was going so well, I wanted to explore how you come to a level of eternal contentment. I wanted that. I was always a seeker and a searcher, and I bought books from great thinkers, great minds who had great wisdom, studied them, recorded notes for many years, and I decided now is the time I can write my second book, because I took their wisdom and I applied it in my life, and it worked. And it just shows you it's not enough to know. You have to apply it.
That's
right. That's what I did. And that's what I did, and it worked. And so my second book I called it Lessons Learned About Life and Love, Living with Intention, and the Wisdom of Great Minds. That is the title of my second book. And that came out, and then they made a documentary of my life now, which I thought was a great way to share my story. And again, when they came and they did that documentary, you know, the cameras were on me, and I thought, what did I get myself into here? Because I had no experience. But then I just did not think about myself. I said, I'm going to take the viewer by the hand and walk them into my past. And that's just what I did. I started from the get-go, and I opened myself up. I know I was very vulnerable, because if you're honest, you know, you bring to the surface things that many people would not talk about, because I now move around in the higher society, and people know me only as refined, and they don't know that part of me, and but I want them to know. And I think it shows courage to open up to others. Certainly. Because you do not want to cheat others, you know, cheat the reader or the viewer. And so I opened up, and it builds bridges, and it connects with people.
I just want to go back to when you were 13 and how you said you set your intention. Now, most 13-year-olds wouldn't be even thinking that way, but I think being in a situation that you would have had to really grow up and mature quite quickly, I would think. You know, your childhood would not have been, apart from the love and, you know, your mum trying to make your life easier in a terrible situation, you would have seen things that a normal young child shouldn't see. And I think that you know, do you think that because of all that, you had to grow up and you came to realize that you didn't want to go back to there, you wanted more from life?
Right, but I think my mother was the catalyst.
Yes.
My mother came from a well-to-do family, even though she herself was a rebel, a nonconformist. But she came from a well-to-do family. She was raised with hired help. But her father was Yugoslavian, and foreigners, everything was taken away from them during Nazi Germany. You know, so he lost everything, And but my mother told us how she was brought up, the better, part of life, what she experienced, how they lived. And also, like I said before, she told us always have a dream. She always made us aware of beauty. Think beautiful thoughts, imagine beauty. And I think it was ingrained. And my sister is the same way. She's 2.5 years older. She's the same way. Also focuses on beauty. And so I think my
that's
mother was the
wonderful
catalyst.
values. Yes, your mother was obviously a strong woman, and even being a rebel, like you've got to be strong to follow the person that you are, don't you?
Absolutely.
And
I think she might have had an easier time because she was a striking beauty. Black hair, blue eyes. She stood out in Germany where blonde and blue eyes were more, and she was a striking beauty. And I think in her young years, she had it easier a little, she had when you look good, it helps.
Yes.
But then, of course, the terrible aggression, the human aggression of war set in, and all the horrible things my sister had witnessed. And my sister went missing for 10 days. My mother nearly went out of her mind during one of the bomb attacks. She was separated from us, and my mother thought, she put notes everywhere. Where is he? Where's he? And after 10 days, she was found in a school that was turned into a shelter. And in that time, she saw things no child should see. The soldiers lining up, holding each other up with one leg. They had no crutches. One man shot where the intestines came out. For a little child to see that, So she says, don't talk to me about war, but we need to talk about it because we need to learn from our past. People need to learn from the past. And now we have this war in the Ukraine. This is Putin's war, which is very similar to Hitler's Nazi Germany, Hitler's war, because it shows us we must think for ourselves and not go for lies and propaganda, which the Nazis were so great at that time, at that. So we need to think for ourselves. We need to learn from these past experiences. And I hope my documentary will help young people. It's a historical learning experience and a historical experience, and learn from the past. And also, in my documentary, there's a certain amount of humanity depicted in it. So I am hopeful that it will develop empathy for the people around us.
Yes, and I think that's what
that's important.
That's right. The world's lacking in that at the moment, isn't it? We need to.
Yes,
need more people. That's right. We need more people like you. Yes, it is a difficult world.
Yes, and so that I studied the wisdom of the great minds. That helped me a great deal. How love is such an important factor. Love is so important, and I'm not saying loving because of an object, or I love you for this or that. Just our inner being loving, and not constantly these expectations, and this experience the harmonies of life. And this is why I'm now 79. This is the most beautiful stage of my life. There's an emerging energy to do something different, to do something I haven't done before. The wisdom that I can share with others. So all these things, I love this stage of my life. Every stage is beautiful. We need to be more aware and pay attention to mindfulness, and pay attention to every object, every conversation. Just be there for that moment, in the moment, which we don't.
No, there is a lot of talk about being mindfulness, but people don't. They just give it lip service. I think they don't actually live it. They don't take the time to reflect. Or I also think that we don't take the time to share our stories, share our past. I was talking to a cousin of mine, and she's been doing our family history and so forth. And my mother passed away 36 years ago. My dad has been gone for 41 years. He passed away. And I often think, you know, we didn't talk about things about when we were growing up. I had a very good childhood. I didn't have any drama in my life. It was quite a cocoon type of life.
Yeah, yeah.
But we didn't talk about things. I don't even know how mum and dad met. And I think that, you know, we need to be open for the good and the bad,
You are
and not
right.
feel that we're going to be judged by what we say. It's our life,
And
it's our story. And whether it's good or bad, we can be helping other people like you are, inspiring them through our
absolutely, Sue.
stories.
Yes. So, you know, because through the hurt, I find through the hurt that I went through, and we all are going to be confronted with challenges and adversities. There's no life without it. But through this hurt, we can use our experiences, our hurtful experiences, as powerful tools to help others.
Yes. Yeah.
I really believe that we need to connect, open up, and never judge. I mean, I was not always like that, but over the years, when I studied the wisdom, I learned for sure you don't judge, you don't moralize. Absolutely not. And I think people that that are down and out, we need to show empathy. And there's nothing more beautiful than helping someone else up that is down.
Exactly.
You know?
And
And
we're
I think
too
that's what
quick
we need.
to, that's right, we're too quick to judge others. We're too quick to walk by. We should be there to support other people and just to show basic human kindness. And
Right.
it makes you feel good once you give.
And you
If
know,
it's
you are
coming
so
from the
right.
right place, when you give, it's such a wonderful feeling.
Warm.
You get so much from it, don't you?
You're not just giving someone else, you're giving to
No,
yourself as well, you
exactly,
know.
exactly.
But these things, Sue, and to become mindful is an easy word. It takes many, many years.
Yes.
It takes, you have to walk the walk. You have to really feel it and think about it, and you have to, it takes many, many years to find this self-fulfillment and have this meaningful life. I think that is, but once you are whole, it's a beautiful thing, and then you can share it with others, and people will only listen to you when you're whole. Otherwise your words will carry no conviction. They know, people feel it, they sense it.
That's right. But isn't it wonderful that you are sharing your story? You said you're 79 years old.
79, yeah.
And it probably took you a long time to become whole. Now you're giving people the opportunity, perhaps at a younger age, to learn from your experience, to learn from you. And so they can, you know, find that wholeness earlier in life, which will really make a big difference to their life.
Yes, Sue, you said it very well. It's you plant a seed, you know, and then you set a foundation to a routine, and then you dedicate yourself to something that you feel is important, and you show up for it. You know, be there for it. And so that's what you have to do. But also it takes time, you know, since I felt worthless. I truly felt worthless for a long time. As a child, as a teenager, I had very little self-worth. But there came a time, as my husband built me up, I said to myself, you know, I let go of those self-limiting beliefs. We can all do that. You know, let go of those self-limiting beliefs. I said to myself, I have something beautiful to offer the world. You know, this situation does not define me. You know, what I went through, and the situation I was in, that does not define me. I have much more within me, and it's amazing. There is a prayer of gratitude that also made me want to write my first book. A friend of mine gave that to me. It's a short prayer. Um, um, I should read it to you because it's so beautiful, and it really inspired me to I saw the entire arc of my life in front of me when I read that prayer. It is worth to listen to.
Mm-hmm.
Prayer of gratitude. Gratitude for the masters I've met along the way. Gratitude for life that is ruthless and totally compassionate at the same time. Gratitude for being embodied as a human being with the potential to awaken to my ultimate nature. Just simple gratitude. You know, the full potential that is in us. We can bring that out. I did that. I did that. I saw the entire arc of my life in front of me because I thought, my gosh, that's what I did. I brought my full potential out. And I think we're giving this precious life. We need to reinforce the preciousness of this life.
Yes.
And make the most of it.
That's right. And you're obviously a strong woman, but as you said, you had to let go of the limiting beliefs. And I think you've acknowledged your husband as being a great supporter of you. And I truly believe in surrounding ourselves with supportive people, because whilst we might have that inner drive, that inner resilience, we do need support, and we need those around us who are going to believe in us and not pull us down and say, why are you doing that? That's, you know, what do you think you're going to achieve from that? We want people that are going to help lift us up to achieve what we're going for.
Yes, but at the same time, when we find these people, we also need to pull our weight and do our best.
Yes,
you know, not
that's
that
right.
now you can carry me, or what can you do for me? Never like that. It was always my first question was always, what can I do here? You know, how can I serve? And I think service is a state of mind that expresses love, not fear. So that I think that is what brings you very far. And also, I believe you have determination and perseverance. You know, without that, you won't get very far.
No.
You have to stay focused, persevere. It's very important.
But I love what you said. What can I do here? It's coming from you. You're driving it. But that's what I meant by sometimes you do need help from others, or just the emotional support. But not sort of sitting back waiting for it to happen. You're saying, what can I do here? And I think that's a great
message.
Great attitude.
I think it is a right message for people. They need to take that to heart. But I definitely have gotten this gift of life, and we need to, what we make of it is really our gift back, you know. And also be positive and have a purpose. A purpose not just to do something good for yourself, but for others as well. You know, a purpose. I think purpose is why we are here.
I agree. And also, I think just hearing you talk, I'm contemplating about, you know, helping others, giving to others. And I'm that sort of person. I get great satisfaction in helping others and doing things for other people. But of course, in this world, we're also told, well, you've got to set boundaries. You've got to have time for yourself. You've got to do this and that. But talking to you, I get the sense that that brings you alive when you're helping other people. So that's not really, it's not encroaching on your boundaries, because you get so much from it. So I think that's another way to look at giving. And, you know, we might be giving our time or whatever, but if we truly enjoy that, isn't that self-care as well?
Yes, that drive keeps me going. It keeps the fire in me always burning. It keeps us young. It keeps us interesting for others, you know. And we need to, the aging process, when they talk about decay and you lose this, for everything we lose we gain something.
Love it. I love that.
Totally.
For everything we lose we gain. We
gain something for sure. And so I see it as you need to be courageous. It takes courage And also stay curious.
Yes,
Stay
yes.
curious. Do what you can. I am blessed with good health. So it's easier to talk, do this and do that. But there are people that cannot maybe walk or whatever, but they still can be, and they can still be important in life. Because they can tell stories, they have wisdom, and we need to revere the elderly, I think.
Oh,
I think we really do need to do
yeah,
that.
we do. And of course, in some cultures, they do. It's,
Yes, the Eastern
you are
cultures.
revered in the Eastern cultures. In the Western world, perhaps not so much, but I don't know, perhaps we're learning to do that. Now, I wanted to just ask you to give us an example, but on your website, it's talking about your second book, Lessons Learned About Life and Love. And I just want to read a little sentence, if I may, and get your thoughts on that. Vivianne captures the profound and often surprising moments of enlightenment that can be found right in front of us if we only know where and how to look. I really like that, because we're always looking for big things, but perhaps there are moments that happen that we just don't recognize, and it's a lost opportunity.
They're all around us all the time. They can make you feel immensely fulfilled. The simple things are the big things. The small things often are the big things. When I, for instance, open in the morning, I open my French doors and I look out into the courtyard and I see the sun breaking through the leaves. Gosh, this is closest to God right there. I'm grateful for every piece of bread that I put on my table, because I know what it means not to have. I'm grateful. There isn't anything I'm not. It's a part of you. It is. It affects every fiber of your being. It is that it is like a love that transcends, that looks beyond the likes or dislikes. I think that's really what it is. So it is a feeling. It is a feeling. It's experiencing the harmonies of life. And then when you have that, Sue, then you're whole, and you will be really a content, grateful. I hate to use that word happy, but yes, a very happy, joyous person, because you're whole.
Yes, and I can feel that from you. I can feel the joy. I can feel the gratitude that you have. And it really does come back to the mindset as well. We can all I mean, on different levels, on different scales, we all have challenges in our life. But you can either go down to those and just be caught up in it, or you can try, as you say, to just take a moment to find a beauty in something, to learn from the experience, to realize that perhaps, tomorrow might be better, not to give up hope. And I think that that's an important message for everyone. It doesn't matter how bad it gets, there is always that hope.
Right. But Sue, once we know we have choices, we have a choice. There's a positive and there's a negative. I would like to be on the positive side. And when you know you have choices, you become the magnet of your choice. Yes. And that's very empowering. It's very empowering. So there's so many facets to life, and once you examine everything and really study it and think it through and try to live by it, you can get there, but it will take years. This is not something somebody tells me, in 6 months or so, I found it out. It can't happen that fast. It's something that sinks into you. It's like a drop of rain coming from the sky and seeping deep into the earth. That's how it happens, very slowly, but boy, is it a beautiful thing when you get there.
Yeah.
And then you want to give back. You want to give back, which is a double joy. And that also gives me a feeling of worthiness, because I feel I can help others. You know, I'm needed. I really do feel needed. I feel needed. I have much to give yet, and that's why life becomes very full then.
Well, that's wonderful, Vivian. Yeah.
And things are beautiful. You know, I like nice, beautiful things. I like to surround myself with beauty, with beautiful things as well. They're not evil. They're just transient. You know, they won't last.
No.
We want something more. That lasting contentment, that is the wealth. The other things are fun, but they're for the moment only. They're
That's
transient.
right. Yes,
you have to see enjoy it for that. Yes.
Now, I'm going to put the links to all your books into the show notes, but you did mention that you've made a documentary. So when does that, where is that going to screen?
It is sent to the film festivals, to the international film festivals, and it takes time, you know, for that it's a procedure, it takes time. But I already got a laurel for the first one that they submitted to, and so it goes. One has been submitted to Toronto Film Festivals for peace, and I think my story is partly political, you know, and it's also a story of love and resilience.
Well, it's a wonderful story, and you know, as I said, I'll be sharing everything that, you know, the links for where people can find you and your books and the movie, because it's a wonderful story. It's really been a difficult life for you, but you've risen above that, and you're such a joyous person. I can feel your energy. I can feel the genuineness about you, because of all the experiences you've had, and now you've risen to the top, and you're just appreciating life every day, and sending out that message is just wonderful.
So, you know, really it is a Cinderella story. You know, my life started with tragedy and ended in triumph. You know, it just shows you that with dignity and mental toughness, you can heal your own life. You definitely can. And so it flourished from what it was. It flourished and became something incredibly beautiful. How can I not be grateful and want to give back?
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Well, thank you so much for joining me today, Vivian. It's been just a joy and a delight to chat to you. I've, you know, you are an inspirational woman, and good luck with the film and the documentary, because your story is very important. But I think it's the latter part of the story that is so inspiring, because you've come from where you have, and you're just this beautiful woman who is sharing and helping others. And it's been an honor and a pleasure to meet you.
Thank you so much, Sue. It was wonderful to be here, and it just people need to get the message that always know that better is out there.
Yes, I love that.
You know, that
always,
better is coming. Yeah. So my book is actually full of important teachings. You know, it is live life, work hard, and better yourself, and also look for the beauty even in adverse situations. Even in adverse situations, you can find, even if you find that little crumb, it'll, you know, and a positive thought increases. Negative thoughts increase. So keep positive thoughts. They will get bigger and bigger.
Well, that's a great note
have
to
more
finish
abundance
on.
in your life.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, Sue, thank you so much for having me, for allowing me to have a voice. I appreciate that very much.
Thank you, and thank you for taking the time to speak with me. I've really enjoyed our conversation.
Thank you, Sue. Thank you.
Well, it was wonderful chatting with Vivianne today. I'm so impressed with her and inspired by her story and the beautiful woman that she is. I hope you've enjoyed the interview as well, and that you will share it with a friend who will certainly benefit from her messages also. Thanks for joining me. I'd love you to leave me a like or a comment if you've enjoyed the episode, and also let me know if there are other topics you would like me to cover. So that's it for this episode. I'll see you next time. And until then, remember to live well, enjoy life, and most of all, be a woman living life your way. Bye for now.